Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is the much anticipated sequel to the 2014 surprise hit of the same name, and it's yet again directed by James Gunn and stars most of the people from the first movie. I was really excited for this movie because I really enjoyed the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought it was very enjoyable, very funny, and it was unlike anything we'd seen at the time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I've got to admit, personally, I really enjoyed Volume 2. I think it is personally just as good, if not a little bit better than the first movie, and to say that about a sequel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is saying something, because I'm kinda glad it didn't turn out along the same lines as Iron Man 2 or Thor the Dark World. The first thing I must mention, which I personally think is something that a lot of other reviewers are kind of ignoring for some reason, and that is the visuals of this movie. Visually, this movie is stunning. Like, literally, it is really nice to look at. It's very bright, it's very colourful, and it grabs your attention from the moment the movie starts. And I feel like other reviewers are very quick to point out the problems with the movie and are kind of just skipping over how the movie actually looks entirely, which is really annoying because this movie looks incredible. I know a lot of people nowadays complain about too much CGI being in movies, and trust me, there is a lot of CGI in this film. But here, it's used in the right way, which doesn't make it feel like you're being bombarded with it. It's only used in this movie to enhance the environments or the characters or the story, and not be all up in your face like a Transformers movie. The CGI here is used when it needs to be, not all of the time. Now, one thing that Volume 2 does very similarly to the first is the amount of humour that there is in the movie and the chemistry between the main characters. I really love the chemistry between the characters in this movie, and I personally think it's slightly better than the first movie. In terms of humour though, for the most part, most of the jokes really do hit, and the reason I say most is because there are a couple of jokes here and there that do outstay their welcome after a while, and it just feels like they go on for too long. Also, all of the characters you loved in the first movie are just as good here as they were in the first. The most of the movie and the plot revolves around Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, and I personally don't have a problem with that because I do think he's one of the most interesting characters in Guardians of the Galaxy, and I really did like the way that his plot ended up turning out, and it was really interesting. I also really liked Rocket Raccoon in this movie, and especially the banter that he shares with Peter Quill, because sometimes it can range from being hilarious to actually being quite aggressive, and you can see their friendship gradually kind of tearing apart at the same time. Baby Groot is as adorable as you want him to be. Drax, just like the first movie, doesn't really have much to do, but in this movie I'm kind of okay with it because of the way they take his character, and I personally liked what they did with Gamora's character and what they did with her sister Nebula. You really get to know some things about not just them, but Thanos, their dad, and it really does add a lot to these characters, and some of the things that Thanos did to her and Nebula are actually kind of fucked up. However, one of the standouts in this movie for me was Yondu. He is easily the most MVP character in the entire movie, and I honestly loved what they did with him. He was a lot more likeable than he was in the first movie, and he's given a lot more to do, especially in the second half of the movie, and I really enjoyed that, because in the first movie I didn't really think much of him, but here he was really, really likeable. Now, even though the movie is very enjoyable, I definitely don't think it's perfect. Around about the middle point in the movie, things do get slightly cluttered as you have several plots happening at the same time. I mean, it's not that cluttered that you can't tell what's going on, but it just feels a bit too scatterbrained in terms of how they keep track of all these plots at the same time. The other thing I have a problem with this movie is the fact that they do spend as much time as they do with Peter and his plot. I mean, like I said, I really found his plot interesting. But the thing is, they spend so much time with him that the other Guardians just kind of take a back seat, and you don't really see them for long periods during the movie, which is a shame, because whenever it cuts back to Peter, I really want to see what Rocket is doing, or whatever Yondu is doing, or even what Gamora or Drax are doing, which is a shame, because it would have been nice to kind of even out everyone's plots a bit more. Apart from that though, those are the only flaws that I have. Overall, I had a ton of fun with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. In terms of whether it's better than the original or not, I haven't quite made my mind up about that yet, but at this moment in time, I think it's on par with the original in terms of the movie itself. Also, the soundtrack is amazing, easily just as good as the first. So guys, that was my review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Bye!